downtrodden and all this good stuff. So there's got to be some good. And yes, maybe there's some examples of that. I say Al Capone had soup kitchens in Chicago. Now, I don't have to defend, I'm not going to here to defend Al Capone. I think most people realize he was a criminal, all right? But he had soup kitchens. It was good public relations. And if I was hungry, growing up in Depression, Chicago, when there was a soup kitchen, I may not even care. I'm going to be fed. I think, hey, Al must be a great guy. He's feeding me, right? So the UN does similar things. That's something that dictators do all the time. Hitler was known to do stuff like that, and Stalin always did stuff like that. We know that. This book was called The Lords of Poverty. I have a hard copy here. Written by a liberal English journalist. I guess when you say liberal and journalist, it's almost synonymous, isn't it? Pretty much. Graham Hancock. And he talked about the big projects, the big International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, and the lending institutions that actually impose corrupt dictators, keep them in power, and also fund projects to advance the internationalists and to advance the dictators in power. You remember the Brazilian rainforest that were being destroyed, depleted, because of greedy capitalists that want to destroy the earth? Well, that's not really how it happened. The agronomists, those are dirt doctors, right? These are the people who would know a lot about soil. And soil is very important. Without it, we would die, right? So they said that if you cut these trees down, what you plan to grow here will not grow very well, and the soil will deplete quickly. It's a bad investment. They didn't care because the money was here. Money has a lot of influence, doesn't it? We know it's a bad idea, but we're taking the money anyway. So they deforested a lot of this rainforest, and what happens is the UN comes around and says, we're going to solve the problem. Of course they're going to solve the problem. They created it. And Frederick Bastiat, in his book called The Law, little like a, I don't know, 80-page book, he said the poison and the antidote are in the same laboratory, are designed in the same laboratory. He said this in 1850, by the way. And what did King Solomon say? Nothing new under the sun, right? We don't, our human nature, we have, technology's different, you know, we don't have chariots anymore, we have cars, but technology, but individuals don't change. Our nature doesn't change a whole lot. So, here's a couple of books I recommend. Anyone ever read the UN Charter? Some of it. Read it. Read it with, you know, you're freedom-minded people. If you're a constitutionalist and you read the UN Charter, you can only be repugnant to us. Okay? And it's a war-making document. As I said a little while ago, all the wars we fought, with few exceptions, since the Korean War, were fought under the UN auspices. But we're still in Korea, folks. In fact, we're still in Germany. We thought the war was over. I was in NATO. My father was in Germany during World War II, and I'm there a generation later. And we're there. Germany's the most, you know, advanced nation, the highest standard of living, and we have to have a presence there. They can't defend themselves. Now, at the Rio conference, let me get back up to Agenda 21. Agenda 21, you can say it was hatched in the bowels of hell, but to give it a more tangible entity here, it came out of this 1987 commission. A lady, a socialist, the vice president of the world, the International Socialist, Brundtland, I think her name is, came out with this Our Common Future, the World Commission on Environment and Development. And this is where the term sustainable development came around and how it was codified. And in 1990, an organization was formed called the ICLEI, the International Council on Local Environmental Initiative. We'll be talking about that a little bit later. Now, 2 years after that, there was a meeting in Rio. It'll be 20 years in June. They are actually having another conference down there. I think it's going to be in Rio 20, or Rio plus 20. There were about 18,000 or more people from all over the world. And my friend and someone Henry met at our council dinner recently, William Jasper, was there as a journalist, and he referred to them as Globies, Greenies, Socialist, Communists, and diapered Swamis attended this event. And a lot of these Rent-a-Swami, they had these people dressing up in costumes and doing their little dances, and he said these people are just hired and did their thing. Two of the diapered Swamis, this is the article that was done from our New American magazine. We had a reporter there, Bill Jasper. I have this in PDF format. If anyone would like it, I'd be happy to show it. It's probably 8 pages. But two of the diapered Swamis was Al Gore and John Kerry. One became vice president, almost president, and one almost president as well. And these guys aren't poor. These guys are both millionaires. And Al Gore just became a billionaire, thanks to the lies he's been telling the school children of the world, actually. So out of this came, among other things, Agenda 21, which is really called soft law. Agenda 21, and by their own statement, is a 1,000+ page document that's binding in all living things on the planet. And the 21 stands for the 21st century. We're in that now, right? And they're not looking at just something that's going to happen in 6 months. If it doesn't happen, we'll try something else. They're looking at a long term to totally reorientate life on this planet as we know it. That's a pretty strong objective. Now, out of that, George Bush, the Republican conservative, right? This is the Daddy Bush here, signed Agenda 21. He said, of course, we'll be happy to implement that. There was no law that was passed Congress. There was no debate. He signed a statement, an agreement, that we would implement this at all federal levels, at all the federal entities. In 1993, Bill Clinton established the Presidential Office on Sustainability. Okay? It maintained itself all the way, and what did our beloved president just do recently? The Rural Councils Initiative. Yeah, you folks that live in the rural areas, we're going to implement Agenda 21 where you are too. So that's what we've had in the last 20+ years. Now, at this conference in Rio was the beloved Jacques Cousteau. We're all familiar with his wonderful undersea world. He was a World War II hero. You know, he was a very courageous man. He invented some innovations in the submarine and had a lot to do with the ocean. But somewhere along the line, he got messed up in his thinking. He didn't have the right world view. And he spoke at the Earth Summit to a rounding applause, by the way. Nobody booed him. He said this: an American-born child environmentally is too expensive to maintain to his or her adulthood in the world economy. American women must be subjected to some manner of regulation beyond licensing and mandatory abortion practices. We all buy into that? You will not see this in your website that says Sustainable Vermont. They will not put this on there. In fact, I went to the website yesterday, last night. I pumped in Agenda 21 in a little search. Nothing comes up. Right? But a year before that, in the UNESCO Courier, UNESCO Courier is a publication, I think it's a monthly publication of the United Nations Environment, Scientific, Cultural Organization. See, the word culture is important too. They want to totally change the culture. Okay? And we hear this a lot about social justice. Agenda 21 is also about so-called social justice. What that means is, if you work hard and you accumulate some money, we're going to take it from you and give it to people who don't work hard and don't accumulate money. That's what that means. Okay? But he said this: one American tires the earth much more than 20 Bangladeshis. World population must be stabilized, and to do that, we must eliminate 350,000 people per day. Anyone have a calculator? What's 350,000 times 365? I bet you it's a lot. Huh? It made Hitler look like an amateur. Mao Zedong would say, oh, why didn't we become environmentalists? We had to be bloodthirsty communist murderers. Why couldn't we just become environmentalists? People would love us even more. You can actually find this on the internet. If you don't believe me, like, oh, this is some crazy conspiracy theorist type guy. Well, you know, there's a joke about a guy, I may be crazy, but I'm not stupid. Find out when you go right to the website, put in UNESCO Courier, November 9th, and you'll get the PDF of what he said. He actually said, the continuation, he said, it's a terrible thing to say, but it's even worse not to say it. Okay? And by the way, do we have mandatory abortions anywhere in the world? Does that exist anywhere in the world? China. And it's communist China, by the way. It's not free market China. It's not progressive China. It's communist China. I was on a plane not too long ago, and there was a lady, she had a couple of her children and a little Chinese baby that was badly burnt. And she said she's visiting the Shriners Burn Center in Boston. She's actually a missionary. Her husband's a missionary. And in China, you don't just become a missionary and pass out Bibles and open up a church. You have to be a teacher, and you have to be a little, have to violate the government's laws. Anyway, she said, we found this little girl burning in the woods. Because, you see, in China, they have one child per person, per couple, one baby per couple, and they prefer to have male babies, because male babies, I guess in that culture, are more apt to help, are more helpful as they get older, so they either abort the girls or they kill them once they're born, you see. So that's the result. You see, when there's a consequence to every action. You also have a very large male population and a smaller female population, but of course, in China. And that causes problems too, doesn't it?